Hi, I'm Gabby, and this is What Now, a podcast about figuring it out in real time. And welcome to season 2. I started this podcast in the middle of my senior year of college when I started to reflect on my college experience and also was starting to face a scary but exciting uncertainty with my future. I graduated this past May, and I'm living the after in real time. So, this season, I want to dive into questions that come up as I'm living life after college. The idea for this first episode of season 2 fully goes to my mom. During graduation season, she sent me clips of the 2025 commencement speeches, and she thought, what if I listened to a bunch and discussed the advice on my podcast? I loved it. So, for this episode, I'm going to talk about some pieces of advice that stuck with me after listening to quite a few commencement speeches. So the first piece of advice I took away comes from a frog that I think is familiar to many. The University of Maryland invited Kermit the Frog as their commencement speaker, which I thought was pretty iconic. And for context, because I didn't know this, the creator of The Muppets and original voice of Kermit, Jim Henson, is a University of Maryland alum. Anyways, I found that the most important theme in Kermit's speech is how important community is when building your life. Kermit says, life is not a solo act. It's a big, messy, delightful ensemble piece. And he later adds, rather than jumping over someone to get what you want, consider reaching out your hand and taking the leap side by side, because life is better when we leap together. Kermit reminds us that we were meant to live our lives surrounded by those we love, admire, respect, and to reach your goals, never letting yourself go through them alone. Build a community that helps you get there. Elizabeth Banks brought up similar themes in her commencement speech at her alma mater, UPenn. Elizabeth Banks is an actress, comedian, director, and producer. You probably saw her in Pitch Perfect or The Hunger Games. But anyways, one of the things I loved that she said in her speech is that your diploma is not just your safety net, but the people who helped you get to it, who supported you, who loved you, are your safety net too. I think it's so easy for us postgrads to feel alone and like we have to figure things out on our own. But here she reminds us that the people that helped us get to college, that helped us get through college, are the same people we should lean on as we face this new chapter. There's another lesson Elizabeth Banks said that stuck with me, and to be honest, her speech was probably one of my favorites, so I really am just highlighting a couple things, so please listen to it. But anyways, she said, in my industry, rejection is protection. In time, I always came to see why I didn't get the part. I'm not Legally Blonde's as Elle Woods, but I am The Hunger Games' Effie Trinket. I think that line is just so badass because it shows how in time she continued to pursue her passion and career, and she was led to the role meant for her, even when other opportunities didn't work out. I personally just got rejected from a job after making it to the last round, and it really sucked at first. I was pretty bummed because the company seemed so cool, the people were so welcoming, but here I'm reminded that it's not a rejection, it's a redirection, and I'm one step closer to finding where I'm supposed to be. Okay, the next speech I listened to, also another one of my favorites, and honestly, whenever I hear this guy talk, I'm always just inspired to do something or literally change my life. So, this is Jay Shetty, author, podcaster, entrepreneur, and former monk. He spoke at Princeton University's commencement. One of the first quotes I have from him that stuck with me is, you have to disappear. And he adds, it means doing the work when no one's watching. You stop worrying about what people think and start valuing what you believe. Because a life that looks good or sounds good is nothing compared to a life that feels good. When I first heard him say this, my mind immediately went to comparison through social media. If you're on social media, you know that, and especially with Instagram in my experience, you know that you are constantly fed a highlight reel of other people's lives. We've been manipulated to think we have to constantly share what we're doing and prove ourselves to others, and this is something I struggle with. In fact, I've been taking a social media break lately, and it's genuinely made me focus more on myself, and Like Jay Shetty explains, doing the work without caring what other people think. So moving forward, as I figure out what job I want, where I want to go, I definitely want to keep paying attention to how it makes me feel and never put myself in a situation where I'm doing something because I'm afraid of what others think or because I need to please someone else and it's not me. On that note, a second point of Jay Shetty that I loved is when he said, I know you will be ambitious about what you gain, but I hope you will be just as ambitious about what you want to lose. Lose the need for approval, lose the obsession with comparison, lose the fear of not being enough. This changed my perspective so much on how I'm moving forward and making decisions. I feel like we've grown up in a world that is constantly asking us what we want to gain, which is Jay's point. And in his speech, he says, like, is it a job title? Is it a certain amount of followers or something? But what about what we want to get rid of? For me, I thought about how I try to go on a walk every day. And sure, I get my steps in and I guess I gain that. But I don't do it because of my steps. I do it because I know that it will make me less anxious and it sets me up for a better day. Also, I was thinking about my break from social media. It's not about gain. I'm not gaining anything. I'm trying to lose my need for attention, for comparison, all the things that these apps are programmed to trigger in us. I think that we should all reflect on maybe what something is helping us lose rather than always thinking about what we're gaining from something. This brings me to the next speaker I listened to, Katie Ledecky, who spoke at her alma mater, Stanford. If you watch the Olympics, then you've definitely seen Katie Ledecky. She is the most decorated female swimmer and the most decorated American woman in Olympic history. She's insane. Her speech talked about the 3 elements for going the distance, as she is a distance swimmer. I want to talk about 2 of the 3 elements she discusses, pacing and process. In pacing, Ledecky said, listen to your coaches, listen to your family members, listen to your mentors and bosses, but also listen to yourself. Don't be afraid to take the leap. Sometimes you just have to go for it and find out what you're capable of. This is something that I've always struggled with. I love getting advice from people in my life and learning about how everyone got to where they are and what advice they gave themselves and all of that. But sometimes I forget that I have to trust and believe in myself and follow my gut. Like, trust me when I say that my dad constantly reminds me that I need to believe in myself more. Because a lot of the time I am my own worst critic, and I think a lot of us might experience that too. In Katie Ledecky's second step about the process, she says, you don't have to win the race, you just need to win your race. It was actually so cool to learn about how like an Olympian sets up their mindset around what they're setting out to achieve, because she was explaining how she sets a goal time for herself that she aims to accomplish for where she is at. And if she happens to win the overall race, like if she happens to win gold, of course, she said it. That's so awesome. But at the end of the day, the real goal is the one that she had set for herself, and that's the one that matters. So for me, I was thinking, as I'm in the midst of figuring out my future job and applying to jobs, it really hit home to hear this, because obviously I see people around me who have already been working these past few months or just getting accepted into a job. But for me, my focus is getting my name out there, getting interviews, setting up my networking calls, and it's really important to remember to really stay focused on your path. She also adds that it's about following and trusting your process, and I think that's exactly what navigating the unknown is all about. So I think this leads me perfectly into the next and last speaker I want to mention. And for the record, there are so many speakers that I wanted to bring up, but I don't want to make this episode too long. That said, I can share the others I listened to if you guys are interested. So the last speaker is Sandra Oh, an incredible actress who you may recognize as Christina Yang in Grey's Anatomy, or if you love Princess Diaries like me and it's one of your favorite comfort movies, then you definitely know her as Vice Principal Gupta. But anyways, Sandra Oh at the beginning of her speech says, "Nothing has taught me more than being with discomfort. It can be our greatest learning opportunity, and it is also inevitable. I've always found it's really hard to move on from chapters in my life, to accept that things are different, that things are never going to be the same, but change is inevitable. I will drive by my college campus all the time, and a part of me always aches a little because I know that chapter has closed and I'll never be there again. And it's also uncomfortable to be in a transition period and to not know what the rest of your life looks like so far, even though you're not supposed to. I think what's important too is Sandra Oh says that the way she finds ease through the discomfort is through kindness and moving forward. I think it's important to take this and not just be kind to others, but to ourselves. I know I can be kinder to myself and being okay with being in the middle of the process. And I also think that comes with giving ourselves a lot of grace and a lot of understanding because, this morning I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about hustle culture and how we live in a world where just everything is go, 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 go. And all of a sudden, when you're in a time of your life where it's not so go, 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 because you don't know where you're going, it's okay to take a step back and know that our lives are meant to be taken at our own pace, and it's okay to slow down, and it's actually really good for us to slow down. So anyways, that concludes all the advice I wanted to share that resonated with me when I listened to these commencement speeches. I highly recommend you listen to these if you have the time. I found all of them on YouTube, and they're all really inspiring in their own ways. Also, let me know what resonated with you the most. But for now, thank you for listening to What Now? If this episode hit home, I'd love for you to follow and share it with a friend who's figuring things out too. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, we're all just figuring it out as we go.